Alrighty, y'all. We are on the way to go and hit some shoulders tonight. The reason I have a dedicated shoulder day in this specific training block leading into stage, or to the show, I should say, is I noticed during my last growth phase, I wasn't getting the adequate growth I was wanting out of the delts, specifically the side delts, which a lot of natural lifters tend to struggle building side delts. That's just, there's not a lot of muscle fibers there to pack on muscle, and the ones that are there tend to be a bit more stubborn to actually see hypertrophic gains. And so I opted to add in a specific shoulder day to my training to hopefully help facilitate a little bit more growth in that area. I'd like to say I have seen some pretty decent improvements there, specifically in the side delts. My front and rear delts have always been pretty decent, so those weren't necessarily the parts of the delt I was looking at adding more growth to during this. But I did want to add this in there to help facilitate growth on the side delt. And like I said, I feel like I've seen some pretty decent improvements in that specific area, and we'll get to see a little bit of that as we do some of the posing later. But anyways, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and hit some shoulders. We'll have a side delt, rear delt, front delt movement. I'll probably throw in an extra side delt movement, but instead of like 3 working sets, I'll probably just do 2. I believe I'll have some abs and a back extension, because I don't have a hip hinge movement for my lower body day, so I'm not doing like an RDL or anything like that, so I'm not really hitting the lower lumbar very much during my leg training. And then my back training, all I'm really doing is alternating between a row and a pull down, and I want to still have that lower lumbar growth and mechanical stimulus during my training sessions. So I have opted to add that on to the tail end of my shoulder day. So I'll go ahead and knock out probably 2 to 3 working sets on back extension, just to get some pretty good mechanical stimulus for the lower lumbar, build that up a little bit more, help kind of develop that Christmas tree look towards the lower back there for us. And yeah, that's going to be just about all we're doing tonight, keeping it very simple. We'll obviously have cardio afterwards, probably just do 15-20 minutes on the Stairmaster, nothing too crazy. I have a pretty active job as is. I work in construction, so I'm on my feet majority of the day, walking around, carrying stuff around, all that kind of stuff. So I don't have to really focus on cardio too crazy, but I will still add it in there. And then obviously during the weekends, that's when I do quite a bit more cardio. On Saturdays and Sundays, I'd say I probably have an hour and a half to 2 hours of cardio on those days, just to help catch up to what my weekly step count is, as well as my weekly cardio. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and knock out some shoulders and knock out some cardio, and then we will be good to go. Okay, shoulders have been hit. So we're gonna work on a little bit of the posing, just hitting like the mandatories, just slowly getting a feel for them as we get more comfortable. Obviously work on the transitions too, but go ahead and knock these out. I know you can't really see the legs, sweatpants, but just use your imagination. Okay, let's attempt to vacuum here, but get some carbs in us, so not promising anything. Yeah, kind of what I expected. All right, let's hit side try and side chest real quick. Start with side chest. Looking pretty good. Let's do side try now. Not too bad. All right, let's hit back lat spread and back double by real quick. Okay, let's try like the archer's pose real quick. See what we can get out of it. Or is this? No, this is mantis. We'll get better at it. Let's try a crucifix now. Not too bad. Take it. We'll get better. We got time. Ladies and gentlemen, oh, probably turn the lights on. Ladies and gentlemen, shoulders have been hit. Did a little bit of posing right at the end. Feeling a little bit better about my transitions. I still have a lot of work to do with just the overall posing itself. You know, the mandatories that I'll have to hit. And then I have 2 classic physique poses that I have a choice on. And there's I believe between 5 to 8 or so that I have to choose from on that. Right now I'm kind of leaning towards the mantis and the crucifix, but that could change. We have time to kind of hash things out, figure out what we want to do as far as those poses are concerned. A lot of yapping. I need to catch my breath. So tonight's workout went pretty good. I did feel a bit more fatigued today than I would say I felt last week during doing the same shoulder workout. So what that's telling me here is I probably need to drop down the volume or bring up the RIR on my working sets. Because right now I'm doing 3 working sets, anywhere between 6 to 12 reps on those working sets, and not leaving a lot of RIR in the tank. You know, maybe 1, maybe 2. So we're still training pretty intensely, but I can definitely feel the fatigue starting to build a little bit. So what I'm thinking of next week, I'm gonna ride this week out, actually assess the fatigue from each exercise, each workout, and then I'm gonna make my decision on Monday, because that will be my next upper day. I will assess that and say, okay, I need to drop to 2 working sets, or let's just go ahead and bump up that RIR. Let's leave 2 to 4, maybe even 5 reps in reserve, but stick to those 3 working sets. Maybe do a little bit more contraction focused. I mean, I know that's not like scientifically perfect or whatever. You're not going to increase your gains exponentially if you have a better contraction necessarily, but we'll go ahead and do that, ride this out. Again, since we're in a deficit, we're really not going to see very many, if any, hypertrophic or strength gains. We're more or less just going to be maintaining what we have already accrued over our training sessions previously in this growth phase. So we're going to go ahead and, like I said, just assess that. And if I'm like, okay, I need to adjust this here, I'm going to obviously make those adjustments. Other than that, though, the training session went well. We did our cardio right at the end. I think instead of blocking it out where I'm doing like 3 30-minute sessions throughout the week, and then obviously my more cardio heavy Saturdays and Sundays, I think what I'm going to end up doing is just tacking on 15 minutes of stair steppers on the end of each workout. Because realistically, that's not a whole lot of extra time spent at the gym per day, and I'm still going to get to the cardio allotment that I'm looking for per week. It felt relatively easy tonight. I shouldn't say easy, but manageable. So I think I'm going to continue that pattern, and again, kind of see how I'm feeling with that there. So whenever we go and hit, I believe it's either legs or upper on Friday, we'll go ahead and do the same thing and see, okay, if we're dog tired, maybe let's go ahead and back off and continue doing those 330s and then the more cardio intensive Saturdays and Sundays. But again, this is kind of what we have to do. It's all trial and error. It's finding what works best for me, what's going to help me, survive this prep essentially, especially with my caloric intake hitting a new low this week. I am just shy of 2,200 calories, so I don't have a lot of fuel in the tank. And we got to be very selective with how we utilize this energy in our sessions and throughout the day, obviously. And that a lot of that can boil down to nutrition timing and just being smart about our water, sodium intake, all that kind of stuff, which I have been tracking that. So that is not anything I've been slipping on or anything like that. I'm drinking right at 1.5 gallons per day, and that's in just water. I'll have like a 0 sugar Dr. Pepper, 1 or 2 a day, if that. And then if I go crazy and have an energy drink, I'm getting a little bit more water out of that there. But baseline, just water throughout the day, 1.5 gallons. Sodium, I have not gone over 3,000 milligrams during this prep. And yeah, we'll just keep going with that. I think, like I said, I think we're in a pretty good position here. We're going to just make a couple adjustments here and there as far as the actual total volume or RIR during these training sessions, and kind of just go from there. We are approaching up on 8 weeks until show now. We are about halfway through week 9, so it is inching ever closer. But if we just continue down the path that we are currently on, I think we're going to be sitting pretty dang good for show. So other than that, yeah, I think that's everything. I'll go ahead and see y'all later.